This is the story of our magnificent erection, aka the wall. Back in May 2010, this is the right of way. This is now what you see where we keep our wood. This is a digger arriving. And now I've got to try and change the photo. This just turned up. This just turned up. I don't remember Ian calling us. Just turned up on a Sunday with it on the back of their trailer, ready for beginning work on Monday. So that's where they were. I don't know what was on that trailer. They brought something in on that trailer. So they've begun digging out here, our driveway, and this is where they tipped the spoil over there, which is now what we call Nigel's lay-by. These are not obviously in very good order, and I can't change them. I downloaded them from Facebook, so obviously this is the digger still being delivered. Don't know what they're talking about. Oh God, that's way back. Wall's already there. Wall being built. Garden ornament. It's annoying they're not in order. You just have to make it up as you go along. So that's the driveway being digging out. That's our cat Grebo, who for a long time hadn't been able to get out to the front because every time he went out the front, the dogs next door could see him and barked at him. And we'd put a wooden sort of piece of wood up to give him a bit of visual protection. But our neighbour got really angry about it and kept running over it. So Grebo just didn't go out there. And within a day of a visual protection being put in, Grebo was rolling around on here, really enjoying the freedom. Oh, still the digger's being delivered. Sorry they're not in order. You recognise that. That's my window where I sit with my desk. That was my view. The size of those stones. Unbelievable. And all of those stones would have been taken out or built and whatever when they built the house all those years ago, 1820, 1830, taken out by hand. Now this, you can see a gendarme car here. This is our neighbour's car. Got very angry, having spent days jumping around taking photos, very angry about what we were doing, building a wall, blocking off his access to our garden. Called the gendarmes, I think because one of the workmen eventually had got so angry with him for dancing around in front of the digger and taking photos, he grabbed him by the t-shirt and said, "Take one more photo and you'll eat your camera for lunch." So our neighbour did that, blocked the driveway and called the gendarmes, which was an interesting few hours. Yeah. We'd done all that we were meant to do. We'd had a geomet and had a consultation with him, which is like a surveyor, to make sure that we weren't putting the wall where we shouldn't. And so this on the right here is the right of way, and this is where the wall is. Plenty of room for him to come in and out without sweeping across our garden, blowing exhaust fumes into the garage. At Mark, blowing exhaust fumes over me when I'm on the phone out in the garden. This all went ahead, I think, I don't know, after there was a gendarme visit, a huissier, which is a bailiff, came, really angry with us as well, telling us that, and saying to us in our house, "Why are you speaking English?" I mean, this is like 14 years ago when you're stressed and French is really difficult. And I wish I'd thought about it at the time, but you're sort of so stressed. I wish I said to him, because it's my house and I speak English in my house. Really nasty man. Always moaning there was no tea. See, that was the view. There's 2 dogs there, the other side of that gate. One laying on the ground, one laying on a table, both chained up. And so, of course, Grebo would come. We put the visual barrier here on this wooden pole, and Grebo couldn't go beyond it because they would just start barking. And of course, he was angry about the wooden thing here. And a week later, there was this. So you can imagine, can't you? It all looks very different, doesn't it? Don't know what he's doing. Fixing up to this. So we used to keep our wood under here, but there's under the carport, in front of the car. But there's a small slither of land behind there that is jointly owned. And so we tried to close off the carport to give us, so the wall would come up, and then Mark put fence panels up across the carport to give us complete privacy. But our neighbour wasn't going to have that. So we've had to do, well, you've seen how it is now, I think. There's a slight angle on the vents of the posts now. That's me coming up the driveway for the first time. It still is, it doesn't look very steep, but it's you still do have to put your foot down a bit to come up the driveway. It's a bit of a shock. You just don't notice how much up off the road you are. There's our old postbox waiting to be put in this gap here, and so Mark took all this out and put that in, then rebuilt it, and then afterwards we decided we wanted a new postbox. And actually there's a really horrible hedge behind there, which we later took out. Yeah, so this is the space that needed to be completed and caused issues. Keep forgetting how I'm moving these. Oh, I see. I think that's almost complete. This cherry tree had to come down. It started to lose limbs, and these blue bits are tarpaulin that Mark had put up to try and stop it. That's ridiculous, really, when I think about it, to try and protect it because it was rotting, but it had to come down. And it was such lovely cherries. It had to come down. I can't remember what Ian said that is. Gendarmes. Not our local gendarmes, so that was more stressful for us. We knew our local gendarmes. We'd seen them so many times because of our difficulties with next door. So the local ones knew us. These guys didn't, so it was all a bit horrible at first. The bailiff made them put that up whilst we sorted all this out, saying somebody could fall down it, and then proceeded to fall down it. I think it was deliberate. Grebo. They moaned about the weather. It being May, they thought they'd be dry. It's a very wet day. I think I had a lot of dry weather actually. The guy that did this, that brought the bricks in on the lorry, was so clever at unloading the lorry. There we go. Mark put in the fence panels. So this is the gap that we've had to leave. So Mark had to move this post. Had to move this post and put this on an angle, and this opens back here. It's on. That's a hint. They're on hinges, so you can open it to come in and out. But we just had to leave that. And that's how it looked. That's how it looks when it hasn't got all the rubbish at the front there that we've got there now, leaning on it, and bits of metal and barbecues and tables leaning against it. It's Grebo in the digger. Quite happy in there, quite warm, thank you. It's the view from the kitchen door, I think, yeah. Grebo in the digger again. Nice and clean, that wall. Doesn't look like that now. It didn't take long for the rain to run down it and stain it all the way down from those canal tiles, and then all the wood's against it. But we couldn't put the wood underneath any longer, so it had to go somewhere. And there was a horrible old hedge here that we pulled out and exposed this wall, and we had this view. We don't have that view because this has all grown up, and I struggle to find that view now, but yeah, it's a lovely view over the wall. Yeah, I think that's it. A few more drilled arms. New post box. And that's the right of way. There, I think that's it. So that was an exciting time. Um, Hold on a sec. That was an exciting time, um, and very stressful as well. Very stressful when the bailiff came. Very stressful when the gendarmes came, and we'd already been to the mairie about a month before and applied for a permis de construire, which is a permit to construct, which we didn't need to apply for. But they said under the circumstances it's probably best that you do, because they knew what we'd be up against. And so we had that. Well, we didn't have that. On the day the bailiff and the gendarmes came, we hadn't actually got that back signed. And when the gendarmes sorted themselves out and our local ones came, Madame Bernardi, who was in charge up there, said, come into the station after lunch, come in at 2. So we went up after 2 o'clock and chatted to her. And she was lovely. She really knew what we were up against. So she was lovely. And she said, build your wall as quickly as you can and stop at the Marie on your way home. Your permis is there, which is what we did. And it was ready to go in the post to us. So that's what we did. So when we got back, these guys could continue because they were sort of on a pause waiting for the outcome, so they could continue. And I think that I don't know whether it may have been the same day. It may have been the same day, because we would have been back by about 3 o'clock, that they continued, and our neighbour drove past and did a bit of a double take to see work continuing. So it's the best thing we ever did. It's putting in a boundary, and boundaries, physical and psychological, are really important. And we had been disturbed by him so much and not had the privacy that we were entitled to, blowing exhaust fumes into the garage when Mark's working, blowing exhaust fumes over me when I'm on the phone to my aunt who died, was dying, very sick, taking photos of my family in a blow-up pool, things, it just was inappropriate. And that was, I was so pleased that we could build a wall. And there were certain conditions, with it being a right of way, the wall had to either be on the boundary of that or 3 meters away from that. I can't remember now. So it's right on the boundary of the right of way, but we own the right of way. We own all of it, and he owns a piece jointly with us, a third of it. So, and you can see it's wide, it's not a small piece of land. Plenty of room for him to manoeuvre around in there. And he's got another driveway up the other side of his house. So, yeah, it was a good time, and the best thing we ever did. Thanks for watching.